Good evening, everybody. I hope this is being watched by everybody who's supposed to do it. I'm going to check roll on this later. Today we're going to talk about not just Prezi, but why we rethink our presentations. So let's get started so we can get finished. This is a quote from one of my favorite designers. Edward Tufte has designed a lot of interface design that has simplified things for decades now. One of my favorite is he's designed the little lines that tell you stock prices. That's just a single line. Communicating a lot with a little is his thing. And this was a quote from an article he wrote for Wired about a decade ago called Power Corrupt. And the byline was Power corrupts, PowerPoint corrupts absolutely. It messes us up. PowerPoint is changed our way of thinking, and it's gotten in the way of communications instead of facilitating them. And here's a stellar example. This is a slide for describing the Afghan political stability that was presented to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Stanley McChrystal, the general, said, "When we understand that slide, we'll have won the war." And we can zoom in and see the sort of things. I have no idea what's going on here. And this is all done with inherent PowerPoint tools. So we've got to simplify. And the way I learned to simplify is Gar Reynolds is my inspiration on this. Reynolds was a businessman. He now wrote this book, Presentation Zen. He also has a blog called Presentation Zen that is linked to from the Moodle site. He was on a business trip in Japan and noticed the gentleman next to him eating lunch, and it was a bento box. And if you've ever seen a bento box, it's all neat little compartments. There's no wasted space. It's organized perfectly. And then he looked at the PowerPoint slide the guy was working on, and it was a nightmare. It was that for all practical purposes. So he said, why can't our presentations be more like the bento box, designed for the user, easy, simple, no wasted space, no extra information? And his book gave me a lot of ideas about simplifying my presentations. For example, missed one for some reason. Here we go. This was a slide I did about the assassination of James Garfield. And it is got all the information on it. But if my students went from this, if I put this up on the screen, the students aren't listening to me. I could be dropping something heavy on them. And they're not listening to me. They're writing down every word on the slide and getting lost in it. If I move too early, go back. And we all know we've had to skip ahead in slides or say, we'll get to it in a minute or any of that. It's just atrocious. Here's the way I simplified my slides when I was still using Slideware. Notice we've gone from a distinct, we're going to spell it out for the students, to where we put discussion prompts and ideas on the screen. Notice we finish with a discussion prompt. So I'm able to relay the information, but they have to listen and interact with me. It's not them just writing words on the screen. Problems with Slideware are, for one reason, it is linear. It's point to point to point to point to point to point. Oh, let me go back. Let me skip ahead. It becomes difficult. This is a limited paradigm for it. It makes it extremely difficult to communicate complex information, and we end up with slides like we saw. It makes you simplify the way you're thinking. Bullet points aren't thinking. Most of these problems come from the people making the slides. They use them to put their notes on as opposed to have a note page, and it's not an aid for the learner, it's the crutch for the presenter. It's a poor implementation of the problem. So I've gotten rid of that. I'm using Prezi now. All this is done with Prezi. See, Prezi. You can use it also. So let's get started working with Prezi, and let me change screens. Be right back. All right, this is Prezi.com. The link is there in the Moodle. If you haven't already signed up, you can choose sign up here. You can go for the public license, nice and cheap. But being that you're a student, you can use your Huntington email to get a mid-level account for free. So you might want to do that. If you're having trouble, do that. Go ahead and sign up for the basic license. You'll be able to sign up for the more advanced license later. and we're going to log in. Now let's see what we get when I'm looking here. Notice that I see my Prezis. I have a tab to learn more about how to get started, things like that. A tab to explore other people's Prezis. I have found other people's Prezis that are shared that you can use. And I have a link to all the other Prezis I've dealt with. Now I put them in the order of last open so you can see that I was messing around with our presentation for class just a few minutes ago. New features they have. They're launching fade-in animations. We're not going to talk about any of these more complex ones. So to start a Prezi, I'm just going to hit a new Prezi. We can put the title in. I'm going to put the title in as the demo presentation for ED2. And you can put a subtitle here. I'm just going to put it so you can see where it will show up. New Prezi. And it's going to open the edit window. Notice I have the little hat on mine and the license for educational use only. There's your difference. It starts with some templates, and they have lots of templates you can use. When you do this is very important. I want everyone to listen. When you do your presentation for me, don't use any of these. But some you may find interesting. We're just going to start with a blank one. I'm going to click and add this text and go hello so we can see what I got here. And we're out. Now, one thing I want to do is show you the main screen outside the editor. So let's go back and look at this. I'm going to exit. Notice it is saving. It saved it right before I left. Here we are at the main window. Notice I see the Prezi right here. I've got controls to autoplay it, and I can tell it to go along the path I'm doing every 4-10 seconds, things like that. And full screen it to watch it. We see my title and my subtitle. Notice I can change those right here. This is private. You see the different settings for privacy. I usually put mine on public just so I ensure that we can find it wherever I put it. Scrolling down, we have some other things. People can comment on it. I can go back and edit. We can do an edit together, which means I send a link to other people, and up to 4 of us can work on this at the exact same time. We can view it together. If I click on the view together, I get a link. I send someone to there, and then I can start presenting it on other people's computers. And I'll just show the edit. I can hit the button and put in some emails, and we'll all start working on it. It's a pretty nice feature. My students like to use it. I can download this. Now, this is on the web. So if you don't have a web connection, you can't show it. Many times I go ahead and download it. It's got a player for Mac and PC. So I can show this to people if I lose internet at school. I can save a copy. For example, I use the same color scheme in a lot of mine. So I have a blank one that is the color scheme. I just copy it and start a new presentation from there. And I've got a way I can delete it and get rid of it. I also have share options over here. I can just share so someone can see it. I can email it to them, or I can embed it. We're going to use this later. There's the embedding. So we'll talk about this in a minute. But let's go back into the presentation. And I actually am going to get rid of everything to start with. All right, we can resize the box here so I can change it where it scrolls, where it lays different. I can have tools as far as centering and justification. I can, if I have multiple lines, I can choose to do inset lines. With each Prezi, I have three main styles. I've got the title style, the subtitle style, and the body style. I can also increase the size of text and lower the size of text right here and do a little color changing. Now, there are some basic colors in the themes, so we can go on with that in a moment. Notice when I'm done, I get this little wheel when I start it up. Now, the wheel, this is called the zebra tool. Used to have a lot more stripes on it. We can increase the size of things. Now, we have these with gradations like this, or I can grab the edge of the inside edge and change the size, or I can grab the outside edge and change the size. I can also trash it if I want. I click on the pencil, I can go right back into my editor. So another option I have is if I click on the exterior, I can rotate it. Now if I hold down the shift key, notice I have it snapping into different positions. That helps you line it up. Prezi makes it easy to make things the same size. So these are obviously different sizes. I'm going to notice when I get them the same size, the shadow appears. This makes it very easy to make lines the same size. Also, if I'm dealing with two lines of text, see the blue line pop up there? There's a center one. There's an edge one. They'll pop up on the side. I'm going to zoom out so we can see it. So we can get text there. Watch as I increase this and same size. Might be a different font, but it's the same size. So we have that with the tool. We also can choose multiple things, and this goes for images and video and things like that. I can click down the shift button. Now I'm holding the shift while I do this and draw a box, and now they're all part of the same piece. So I can rotate them all together, move them all together, resize them all together. And any action you can do that way. So I've got these lines in my presentation. Not bad. We can do several other things with them. If I right click, we'll get to pass later. You have this ability anywhere you're in the meeting. Now notice it's saved again. It always will save. I have an undo key up here. I have the option to, from within the presentation, to start presenting for other people or invite other people to edit it. If I click print, it generates a PDF that has lots of other material in it. It generates a PDF that has lots of that overview of all the pieces and then all your path points, which we'll talk to later. The help's available here. And if you exit, it's going to save on the way out. If I click Insert, I get some options. Now, we'll start with the basic and most easy. We have shapes. We have arrows. Notice I can change the color of the arrow. If I come up here, I'm going to just use the regular arrow. Now I can click on it and look, I've got the zebra tool. I can change the dimensions. I can resize. That basically makes the arrow thinner. If I click that button, not only can I put the ends of the arrows where I want, I can put bends in them for all manner of effects. All the different shapes can do this sort of thing. They have the line shape, which works much the same way. I can come over here and click it and make it thinner, edit it, put the edges where I want, and as before, make curves. Shapes work much the same way. A square, I can choose to fill it in, make it black on the outside, fill it in with several different shades. Now these shades are all according to our themes, which we'll talk about in a minute. Well, what's the difference? Why is it making some things disappear and some things not? It's because some things are behind the box. And this is an empty box, but I can make it a filled box or a dark box. I can bring it to the forward, which puts things behind it, or send it all the way to the back. So bear in mind your lettering here. For example, if I wanted just pieces of this arrow to show up, I can send it to the back. And now I could do some sort of effect with just the arrow, pieces of it sticking out or it being behind something. So bear in mind you're stacking on it. Circles, triangles work the same way. Oh, another option is if I just put a triangle in there. That was smart. Notice I can make the triangle any sort of way. And you can also do that with your square when you edit it. You've got controls over the edges of the boxes to put them in how you want. Notice we've got the stacking things going on here. I can send it backwards one step. Send it backwards again. Send it backwards again. Notice how things keep popping up as we change the stacking order. Sometimes you have to experiment with that. We also have just a straight line drawing tool. Notice it sort of smooths the line. Any of these things can be resized. For example, I click on here, I can change the sizes, change the shapes. We also have an highlighter tool. And even with that, we can send it to the back where it's sort of a frame for the image, or we can put it on top where it's sort of over the top of things. And once again, even with the highlighter tool. Oop, clicked on the wrong thing. Let me move it out of the way. We have many options there. While we're on that, let's talk about themes for a second. There are many preset themes in many different languages, and you can implement them in a second. They will change your design for every bit of your image. So I'm going to click on for this neon theme, and it redoes immediately. Now, sometimes you have to go do some options with it because it's got too many things that are the same color. Different images, things like that. And there are many presets that worked in a variety of ways. Now, if you ever get lost, one thing, I'm off in the middle of nowhere here. How do I know where my images are? If I click home, it'll bring me back to where I've been working. And I can zoom in and out as you would expect. I like the infographic theme, so we're just going to go with it. Now, you do have a theme wizard, and you can come in and change every bit of these. Click next. Change the fonts on the titles, the colors, things like that. So you have a great degree of control over with that. Now, as far as inserting shapes, now you can insert what we call a file. Insert file. Insert. You can insert an image. Now, this could be an image you already have on your computer. For example, I had to make a quick adjustment. Sorry about that. So we're going to insert an image right here. We can insert. Had to make a quick adjustment. Pardon for that. We can insert images. I'm going to select the file from my computer. I've got a couple things on my desktop I was using for other things. I will just use this picture of a crop. And it will do a little song and dance where it uploads it from my computer and then downloads it into the Prezi. Now I can do everything with it I've done with other pieces. I can rotate it, move it. If I click edit, I have some resizing abilities to it. They aren't great. It does hold it with within certain aspects. Now let me show you something as I zoom into the image. Notice it grays out. It's in full color. As I go into it, it gets gray all of a sudden. That means you're in too close, and now I can't do any editing to it. So if you're having trouble doing editing to text or a picture, make sure it's not grayed out. We also can insert other things. You can insert a PowerPoint. Now what this will do is it will create a window over here of your PowerPoint slide by slide by slide. And you can drag the elements from each slide into your Prezi. It's a really great tool to incorporate, to transfer your old PowerPoints into Prezi and do something neat with them. Say you have a lot of text or a lot of images, it lets you work directly with those. You can insert a YouTube video. If you put the YouTube link on it, right here, for example. Let's get that video I did for your GDocs. Hey everybody, just a quick video to make sure I got the URL copied. And there it is. Once again, we can resize, move it around, do it how we see fit. We can insert a drawing and diagram, and it has several things we can choose from. If you're doing a history timeline, it has that sort of thing. It has a pyramid that you can work with and then zoom around in. That's perspective drawing. So these are just there for you to come up with some nice ideas to how to present things. And finally, any sort of file. It takes several sorts of files. I believe it will tell me if I mouse over it. PDFs. I can insert a PDF and each page will be manipulatable. A flash file, things like that. It's pretty good. Let's talk about frames. We have several kinds of frames. Now I'm going to move over here to show some frames. Ooh, I accidentally drew one. I'm going to move over here to show some frames. So I'm going to put some text on here. Text. I have a frame that's just brackets. I have a frame that is a circle. There is a frame that is a oblong box. Now all of these, when you click them, you have the options to do things like this. Now if you move a frame around, whatever's in the frame moves with it. I'll show you that with some of the other frames. So whatever you have framed becomes held in that frame. Now there is a kind of frame that we're going to talk about here on paths in a minute called the hidden frame that's invisible. Only you see it. It will not be in the rest of the presentation. Your text does not move with that, or images or anything does not move with that frame. Now notice as I'm moving it, I get boxes for centering and aligning, just like I would with other text. The hidden frame is for drawing a path, so it's not going to capture your text. Once you have a frame, once you resize the frame, anything inside it gets resized or angled with it. Now I use frames for several things. For example, frames tie in well, especially the hidden frame, with things about the path. Now over here you have your path. One thing you can add is a current view. So you can zoom just where you like it, get an artful stance if you want, and add the current view. And notice it shows up here in your path. Now we can click on individual things. We can click on text. We can click on that rotated piece of highlighting. We can click on a shape, a drawing, even a frame. Now notice we have this show button here. Let's show and look at it. There we go. You can see me actually clicking now. Notice it writes itself to each piece. Now I noticed that I did not use that video in my path. If I click on the path, see it's got the little plus signs on it? We can drag that plus sign to a thing we want to enter and it will go in. Now I'm dragging the spot between 3 and 4 to that video. Notice the timeline on the left. That video goes between 3 and 4. So now when we play it, I'll go right to the beginning.
Hey everybody, just a quick...
And there we go. So the path is easily laid out. Another thing I've linked to is the Cool Text Editor. So I will just show you how to use that real quick. So I'm going to tell it to, I just chose a design. I've got several options to choose from here. Dozens of them actually. I'm going to choose the Nova I like so much. Mr. Coleman's class. I can choose a different font if I want it. Notice it's automatically resizing. I'm going to make it a little smaller. I can change the color of the glow. I'm a fan of purple myself. If I hit render logo, it comes up, this is an ad. Skips ad. I can click download image and there it goes. I'm going to move it to my desktop so it's easy to find. And now I can actually put it in my Prezi. Insert image. It's on my desktop. And in fact, we will make this, I'm going to do some path editing here. I could come over here and delete that big first thing I put on the path. Now, one thing, if you right click it, if you'll notice, it says add to path. That's automatically in the path. I can come over here and move it to the front first of the path if I want. So let's look at the presentation we have now. I'm going to go to the beginning.
quick video. make sure we understand what's going on with the group.
It's real easy to put things into this. So I'm going to exit. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to tell you about. We got the path. It's all pretty straightforward. Let's talk about the actual assignment, shall we? Oh, another couple of links before we talk about the assignment. I've put another couple of links in there. I've linked to Chrome Eyedropper and ColorZilla Plus. If you find a color on the web you like, those are plugins for your browser that will let you just click and find out what the color is, so you can build your Prezi around someone else's color you like a lot. Let's look at the requirements for the presentation. Create a Prezi presentation for your lesson in your discipline. Once again, if there's not a lot of them, try and do, you can move on to a different subject, but try and make it as academic as possible, or at least as physically academic. Your Prezi should include 15 path points. It should move along a path in a logical order. You shouldn't just throw things up there to throw things up there. You should have at least 7 instances of images or video. All path points adequately framed and organized. No misspellings or grammar errors. 4 uses of shapes. That can be just lines or arrows. 5 different uses of different kinds of frames. And then we're going to embed it as your portfolio entry. So let's look how we're going to embed this. I'm going to exit. And while we're exiting here, I'm going to go to WordPress and log in as me. And let me go to the dashboard. So I am going to do a post, add new, and this is my Prezi. If I come in here and, that's to my YouTube video, pardon. I'm over here in the presentation screen. This is the main screen. Before I get to that, I'll show you we can set up an autoplay, and it'll start autoplaying for every 4 seconds. It will change to the next item. All you have to do is click a button to get the stop the autoplay. But if I've done this, for example, I had an open house. I wanted it to just repeat. I made a Prezi for that. For your presentation, we're going to make it where you can just link to it. I say embed it in your blog as a portfolio entry. We're going to say I've changed the requirement where we're just going to link to the blog. So we come over here to the share icon and get this link to share the Prezi. Copy it. I do it that way just to make sure. We go over to the add post. This is my Prezi. I'm going to add that link in. There we go. It's working fine. Now it's working fine for me because I have the Prezi as public. If you have it private, I might not be able to get it. So be sure and save it as public. So I'm going to set that as a portfolio and publish it. Just a quick note, also on this you have a blog entry for the week. Blog 5. It is a tech news, I believe. tech news story. So please do that blog post. So when I get back, before I see you next Wednesday the 10th, 11th, something like that, you need your learning asset. You need your Google Docs portfolio. You need your Prezi portfolio. And you need this blog entry. I will be checking to see who has clicked the link to this video at midnight on Wednesday. Spread the word. If they haven't at least opened up this video, it's over and done with. Have a good week, guys.